You walk into a room full of strangers. Your eyes land on a face, and in less time than it takes to blink, you've already decided if you trust them. You didn't mean to. You didn't even notice it happening. But your brain just made a judgment about someone's honesty, their intelligence, even their competence, before they said a single word. That feels wrong. It feels like something a fair person shouldn't do. But the real answer is far stranger. You were built to do this. Every human being on Earth does it, in the exact same way, in the exact same amount of time. Why would evolution wire you to judge a stranger before you even hear their voice? Let's go back further than you'd expect. Long before cities, long before language had fully formed. Your ancestors lived in small exposed groups, and a stranger walking toward camp was not a curiosity. A stranger was a question with life or death stakes, friend or threat, ally or danger. There was no time to gather evidence. There was no time for a conversation first. The people who survived were the ones who could answer that question fast, using nothing but a face. That pressure didn't fade. It got carved into your brain, and it's still running today, every single time you meet someone new. In 2006, a psychologist named Alexander Todorov at Princeton decided to test exactly how fast this judgment happens. He showed people photographs of unfamiliar faces for a tenth of a second. Not one full second, a tenth of one. Then he asked a simple question. Does this person look trustworthy, competent, likable? The answers barely changed when people were given more time to look. A tenth of a second was enough. Your brain had already made up its mind before your conscious thought even caught up. Think about that for a moment. Before you can form a sentence about someone, your brain has already filed them into a category. So what's actually happening in that fraction of a second? Your brain isn't reading a face like a book. It's pattern matching. It's comparing the shape of someone's eyebrows, the width of their jaw, the curve of their mouth against a lifetime of faces you've already seen and against ancient shortcuts baked in long before you were born. One of those shortcuts is shockingly simple. Faces that resemble anger, faces with lowered brows and a downturned mouth, get read as less trustworthy. It doesn't matter if the person is actually angry. It doesn't matter if that's simply the resting shape of their face. Your brain doesn't check. It just matches the shape to the emotion it resembles and reacts as if the emotion were real. This is why some people get called naturally intimidating and others get called naturally friendly, and neither one has done anything at all. Their bone structure did the talking. There's a researcher who spent decades studying a related pattern, Leslie Zebrowitz, at Brandeis University. She researched what's known as babyfaceness, the tendency for faces with rounder cheeks, bigger eyes, and softer features to be judged as more trustworthy, more honest, even more innocent, regardless of the person's actual age or character. It's the same shortcut that makes you feel drawn to a puppy. Your brain sees softness and reads safety, even when safety was never guaranteed. So the shape of your face, something you had zero control over, is quietly shaping how strangers treat you every day. Doesn't that feel a little unfair? But it goes deeper than faces alone. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, a psychologist named Nalini Ambady, working with Robert Rosenthal at Harvard, ran a study that became famous for a different reason. She showed people just a few seconds of silent video, teachers giving lectures with no sound at all, just body language. A few seconds. The observers rated how effective they thought each teacher was. Months later, those same teachers were rated by actual students who had spent an entire semester in their classrooms. The ratings matched, not loosely, closely. A few seconds of silent footage predicted judgments people would form after months of real experience. Ambedi called this thin slicing, the brain's ability to extract a surprisingly accurate signal from a tiny slice of behavior. Except accurate isn't quite the right word. Consistent is more honest. Your brain isn't necessarily right when it thin slices a stranger. It's just remarkably fast and remarkably confident, and other brains tend to land in the same place. That's the unsettling part. It's not that your first impression is always correct. It's that almost everyone's first impression lands on the same conclusion, correct or not. So here's the twist most people never expect. This system, the one deciding who to trust in a tenth of a second, wasn't built for the world you actually live in. It was built for small tribes, maybe a few dozen people. A world where you'd likely see the same faces over and over for your entire life, and where a stranger really might be a threat wandering in from outside the group. Now think about your actual day. You scroll past hundreds of unfamiliar faces before lunch. You swipe through profiles on a dating app in under a second each. You glance at a stranger's photo before a job interview and form an opinion before you've read a single line of their resume. Your ancient threat detection system, built for a world of maybe 50 people, is now running non-stop on an entire planet of strangers. It never got the memo that the world changed. It just keeps firing the same ancient alarm, judging every face like it might be the one that matters. And here's where it gets even stranger. Knowing all of this doesn't turn the system off. You can understand exactly why your brain does it, and it will still do it anyway, the very next time you meet someone new. Awareness doesn't disable a tenth of a second reflex. It only gives you the choice of what to do after the reflex fires. So the next time you meet someone and feel an instant pull of trust or an instant flicker of doubt, pause on that feeling for a second longer than usual. Ask yourself where it actually came from. Was it something they said, something they did? Or was it just the shape of their eyebrows, matching a pattern older than language itself? You walked into that room a stranger to everyone in it. And in a tenth of a second, every single person had already decided who you were.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं फिल्मोरा है ना।